Some nights stay with you, not because of what you saw, but because of what you almost understood and didn't. This is one of those nights. My name is Caleb, and what I'm about to tell you happened 3 years ago on Halloween night in a town most people have never heard of. I've tried to forget it. I've tried to explain it away, but every October when the leaves go brown and the air gets that particular kind of cold, it comes back. All of it. It started with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Halloween party, Old Harwick House on Elm Ridge Road. Be there at 9. Come alone. No name, no context. Just that. I should have deleted it. I know that now. But here's the thing. My friend group had been talking for weeks about finding something to do for Halloween. And the Harwick House? Everyone in our town knew that place. It had been abandoned for nearly 2 decades. The 3 stories of Victorian-era architecture sitting at the end of a long gravel road, half swallowed by overgrown oak trees. It was the kind of house that kids dared each other to approach on a bet, then turned around before they ever reached the front door. I figured one of my friends was pranking me, setting up some elaborate haunted house experience. I texted my buddy Marcus, who denied everything, but he was laughing too hard for me to fully believe him. So at 8:45 that night, I drove out to Elm Ridge Road. The gravel crunched under my tires for what felt like a quarter mile before the tree line opened up and the house appeared in my headlights. And I'll be honest with you, my first instinct was to put the car in reverse. It wasn't that the house looked dangerous. It was that it looked occupied. Every window on the second floor was glowing with soft amber light, the kind you get from candles, not bulbs. Paper lanterns hung from the porch railing, swaying in the wind. Carved pumpkins lined the front steps, and from somewhere inside, I could hear music, old music, a kind of slow, low jazz that made the whole scene feel like a black and white photograph come to life. There were already cars parked in the grass, a dozen, maybe more. I didn't recognize any of them. I checked my phone. No messages. No calls from Marcus or anyone else. I told myself it was fine. Someone had rented the property. As some rich Halloween enthusiast with a flair for atmosphere, there was a perfectly rational explanation. I got out of the car. The front door was open. Inside, the party was already in full swing. And I mean that in the most disorienting way possible. The foyer was packed with people in elaborate costumes, not the store-bought kind. These were handcrafted, intricate, the kind that take months to assemble. Plague doctors with long leather beaks, Victorian mourners in black lace. A figure in a full porcelain mask, perfectly still in the corner, watching the room. Music drifted down from somewhere above us. I moved through the crowd, smiling at people, waiting for someone to break character and say, "Hey, it's me. Glad you made it." But nobody did. The conversations I caught pieces of were strange. Not scary strange, just off. People discussing things that didn't quite make sense. Names I didn't recognize, places I'd never heard of. And I grabbed a drink from a table, sealed bottle, I made sure of that, and kept moving. Then I found the hallway. Every house has a room it doesn't want you in. In the Harwick house, that room was at the end of a long, narrow hallway on the ground floor, past the kitchen, past a bathroom, past a closet door that was chained shut with a padlock that looked brand new against the rotting wood. There was a door at the very end of the hall. Plain, wooden, no decoration, no handle. On just a small brass latch. What drew me to it, I genuinely cannot explain. The party noise faded as I walked down that hallway. The music became muffled. The air changed, cooler with a smell like old paper and something faintly metallic like pennies. I stood in front of that door for a long moment. And then from the other side, I heard something. A voice, a child's voice, soft and low, reciting something. Words I couldn't quite make out, rhythmic and steady like a nursery rhyme or a prayer. As I stepped back, I am not the bravest person in the world. but I am not typically someone who frightens easily. I'm 6 feet tall. I grew up in a rough part of town, and I've talked myself out of genuinely dangerous situations before. But that voice made every single hair on my body stand up, because it wasn't coming from inside the room. It was coming from directly behind me. I spun around. There was a little girl standing at the entrance to the hallway, maybe 8 years old. Hey, she was dressed in an old-fashioned white dress, the kind with a high collar and long sleeves, with her dark hair pinned up on top of her head. No Halloween makeup, no mask, just a child watching me with wide, calm eyes. "You shouldn't be in this part," she said. I exhaled. "A kid at a Halloween party. Fine. That's fine." "Sorry," I said. "Just exploring. Is this your family's house?" She tilted her head. It was such a slow, deliberate movement that it stopped me cold. "Nobody's family lives here," she said. "Nobody has for a long time." I laughed a little nervously. "Right, it's been abandoned for years. That's kind of the whole—" "That's not what I mean," she said. She turned and walked back toward the main rooms without another word. I stood there in that cold hallway for a solid 10 seconds before I followed her out. But when I got back to the foyer, I scanned the entire room. The little girl was nowhere. She had simply ceased to be visible. I texted Marcus. "Are you at the Harwick house party? Get here now." He arrived 20 minutes later. I watched him walk through the front door with the same confused, delighted look I must have had when I first arrived. I grabbed him by the arm and pulled him to the side. "Who organized this?" I asked. He stared at me. "I thought you did." We looked at each other. "I got a text," I said. "I got an email," he said, "with your name on it." We pulled out our phones side by side. His invitation listed me as the host. Mine had no name at all. Neither of us had the original sender's contact information. Both messages had come from addresses and numbers that returned nothing when we searched them. That was the moment the party stopped feeling fun. Marcus wanted to leave immediately. I almost agreed with him. But before we could move toward the door, a woman in a red Victorian gown stopped us. "First time?" she asked pleasantly. "Is it that obvious?" I said. She smiled. "It always is. You two have that look." She glanced around the room with an expression of deep familiarity. "Don't worry. It's a tradition. This party happens every year. Different guests, same house. Nobody organizes it, not really. The invitations just appear." "That doesn't make any sense," Marcus said flatly. The woman reached into the small handbag at her wrist and produced a photograph. Old and slightly yellowed at the edges, unprinted on thick cardstock, the way photos used to be printed a century ago. It showed the Harwick house foyer, filled with people in costumes, lit by candles, music implied by the movement blur of dancing figures. In the corner of the photograph, barely visible at the edge of the frame, was a figure in a white dress, small, a child, dark hair pinned up. The photograph was dated October 31st, 1934. Marcus and I left the Harwick house at 11:07 p.m. I know the exact time because I checked my phone the moment we got out the front door and the cold night air hit my face. We did not say anything to each other for the entire walk to our cars. We did not look back at the house. We drove in convoy to a diner 4 miles away and sat in a booth under fluorescent lights and ordered coffee and didn't speak for almost 5 minutes. Then Marcus said, "I'm going to tell you something and I need you to not make a big deal of it." "Okay," I said. When I walked in," he said slowly, "and I was standing in the foyer before I saw you, there was a little girl standing next to me, and she said, 'He's in the hallway. He'll be glad you came.' And then she was just gone." He wrapped both hands around his coffee mug. "I didn't mention it because I thought I was just creeped out and imagining things." I didn't say anything for a long time. "She knew you were coming," I finally said. He nodded. She knew your name? She didn't say my name, he said, but she knew I was looking for you. We never found out who owned the Harwick house, or who held the deed, or who replaced those paper lanterns and lit those candles every year. The local property records listed the estate as part of an unresolved inheritance dispute that had been sitting in county court since 1987. As far as the law was concerned, nobody was responsible for that property. The following year, on October 30th, I received another text. Same format. No name, same address. I didn't go. But I'll tell you this, and this is the part that has never stopped bothering me. The part that wakes me up sometimes in the middle of the night in late October when the wind is up and the leaves are going. 3 days after that Halloween, I was cleaning out my jacket pocket and I found the photograph. The one the woman in the red dress had shown us. The one from 1934. I never saw her hand it to me, and I never put it in my pocket. But there it was. And in the corner of that old photograph, that small figure in the white dress, I had assumed she was looking away, lost in the crowd. But I looked closer. She was looking directly at the camera, and she was pointing, directly at the spot where I would be standing, 89 years later, when I first walked through that door. If something like this has ever happened to you, leave it in the comments below. And if you're new here, welcome. You might want to sleep with the lights on.